Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're going to tackle something pretty cool. It's called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG for short, and it's making some serious waves in the world of finance.
It is pretty incredible. Basically, you can think of it like giving a financial advisor instant access to like a massive library of information.
Okay, so instead of just relying on like what they already know,
Mm.
they can tap into all sorts of external data.
Exactly. Things like financial documents, news articles, market data, anything and everything you can think of.
So they're constantly learning and updating their knowledge. That sounds super powerful, especially in a field like finance where things are always changing.
It is. It's a total game changer. And you know what's really cool? There's this research paper about a new benchmark for evaluating these RAG systems, specifically for the finance sector.
Oh, wow, really? I'm all ears, yeah.
They've actually created a system that can automatically generate evaluation scenarios.
Well, hold on. So it's like having a robot judge how good these AI financial advisors are.
Exactly. It's called the OmniEval benchmark, and it's designed to test these systems from every possible angle.
I'm intrigued. How does it work?
Well, it uses a matrix system to classify different types of queries into 5 task classes and 16 financial topics.
A matrix. So it's not just a simple pass-fail kind of test.
Nope, it's way more sophisticated than that. It's like a multidimensional evaluation that gives you a much deeper understanding of what these RAG systems are capable of.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture.
Yeah.
So you've got this matrix that covers a wide range of tasks and topics. What exactly are these 5 task classes?
Well, the first one is called extractive question answering. It's pretty straightforward. It's like asking a very specific question like, what was the closing price of Apple stock yesterday?
Gotcha. So the RI system needs to pull the exact data point you're looking for.
Yep. Then you have multi-hop reasoning, which is where things get a bit more complex. This time, the RGA system has to connect several pieces of information and draw its own conclusions.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about finding information, but also about understanding it and making connections kind of like a human analyst would.
That's exactly it. And then there's long form question answering, which is all about handling those big, broad questions like, um, what are the risks and potential rewards of investing in emerging markets?
Okay. So it has to synthesize information from different sources to create a detailed response.
Exactly. It's almost like writing a mini research report on the fly.
Wow, that's impressive. What about the other 2 task classes?
So the fourth one is called contrast question answering. And as you might guess, it's all about comparison. So it's like asking, should I invest in a mutual fund or an ETF? The RAG system needs to break down the pros and cons of each option so you can make an informed decision.
Makes sense. And the final task class?
Conversational question answering. This is where the RAG system needs to handle back and forth interactions. Like if you ask a question and then have some follow-up questions or need clarification, it's almost like having a real conversation with a financial expert.
Okay, so you've got these 5 task classes all being evaluated across 16 different financial topics. What kind of topics are we talking about?
Oh, you name it. Banking, investments, insurance, fintech, regulation, compliance, the whole shebang. The goal is to really push these RG systems to their limits and see how they perform across a wide range of
So
scenarios.
it's like a financial decathlon for AI. But how do they actually measure how well a RA system is performing? Is it just about getting the right answers?
It's more than that. They use a combination of what are called rule-based metrics, which focus on accuracy and retrieval performance. And then there are also these LLM-based metrics, which are even more sophisticated.
LLM-based metrics. That's a new one for me.
Yeah. Basically, they use LLMs to judge things like comprehensiveness, hallucination detection, and numerical accuracy. It's not just about whether the answer is technically correct. They're also evaluating how well the system understands and uses information.
Okay, so it's making sure the AI isn't just spitting out random facts or making things up right.
Exactly. You want to make sure it's actually learning and reasoning and not just making lucky guesses.
This is all starting to make sense. So they've got these really thorough testing methods in place, and they're evaluating across all sorts of tasks and topics. But what kind of AI are they actually putting to the test?
Well, they're testing a bunch of different retrieval systems and LLMs, including some of the leading names in the field. For retrieval systems, they're using things like GTE Quin2 1.5B, BGE Large As, BGE M3, Gina's As. And for LLMs, they've got Qwen 2.572B Instruct, DeepSeek V2 Chat, Y1534B, and Llama 3.170B Instruct.
Those are some heavy hitters. So did they also test how these LLMs performed on their own, like without any external information?
They did. They called it the close setting. It's like seeing how well our financial advisor does with just their existing knowledge.
So close is like the control group. Interesting. What were some of the key takeaways when they compared RAG systems to the closed LLMs?
Well, three big things stood out. First off, RG systems consistently outperformed close LLMs, which just shows how powerful retrieval augmentation can be.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like having access to a whole library versus just what's already in your head.
Exactly. The second thing was that RAG performance varied a lot, depending on the specific topic and task. Some areas of finance were trickier than others, which is a good indication of where we still need to improve.
So even the best AI systems have their strengths and weaknesses, just like us humans.
Totally. And that brings us to the third key finding. There's still a lot of room for improvement, especially when it comes to those more complex tasks like multi-hop reasoning and conversational QA.
Okay, so there's still a lot of untapped potential here. This has been an awesome deep dive into the world of RAG systems in finance. But I'm curious, what does all of this actually mean for the future of finance? What are the real-world implications of all of this?
That's a great question. And that's what we'll be exploring in the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
Okay, so we've got these RAG systems that can access and process tons of information. But how does that actually translate to like real-world applications in finance?
Well, think about it for a second. One of the most promising things about RAG systems is that they could make like really good financial advice available to anyone and everyone.
So instead of needing to hire a fancy financial advisor, I could just have an app that does all the work for me.
That's the idea. You know, these RAG systems could take all the guesswork out of financial planning. Imagine an app that looks at your income, your expenses, debts, investments, everything, and then gives you a totally customized plan based on your goals and your risk tolerance.
That would be so helpful, especially for people who don't have access to traditional financial advice.
I know, right? It could really help level the playing field when it comes to like building wealth and making smart financial decisions.
I love that. So it's not just about individual finances though, right?
Yeah.
Could RGAG systems also be used to address some of the like systemic issues in the financial system?
Absolutely. I mean, think about something like predatory lending RGAG systems could be used to spot those kinds of practices way earlier.
You mean like an AI that can analyze loan applications and flag the ones that are like unfair or designed to take advantage of people?
Exactly. It could help protect vulnerable borrowers and make the whole system more equitable.
That's incredible. I'm starting to see how this technology could really have a positive impact on so many different levels.
Mm.
But you mentioned earlier that there are also potential downsides to all of this. What are some of the risks we need to be thinking about?
Yeah, you always have to be careful with new tech, especially when it comes to something as important as finance. One big risk is that these systems could be misused either accidentally or on purpose.
Like, what if someone hacks into a RAG system and tries to manipulate it? Could that cause a financial crisis?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, we're still in the early stages here, so the security measures and regulations are still developing. That's why it's so important to have really strong safeguards in place.
So it's not just about building the tech, but also about making sure it's used ethically and responsibly.
Exactly. We have to be transparent about how these systems work, hold them accountable, and make sure they're not perpetuating any biases that already exist in the financial system.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
But when it comes to accountability, who's ultimately responsible if our RAG system messes up?
That's a tough one. It's probably going to be a shared responsibility between the companies that develop the AI, the financial institutions that use it, and the government agencies that regulate it.
Wow, so it's a pretty complex issue. It's not just about building a better financial advisor, it's about creating a whole new set of rules and regulations for AI in finance.
Yeah, it's definitely not simple. And then on top of all that, you have to think about the human side of things. People need to feel comfortable trusting their finances to an AI.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a hurdle. A lot of people are already kind of wary of AI.
Exactly. So building trust is going to require a ton of education and transparency. We need to help people understand how these systems work, what their limitations are, and what's being done to make sure they're used responsibly.
So it's not just about the tech itself, but also about the human element. We need to have open and honest conversations about AI, address people's concerns, and make sure everyone's on board.
Totally. AI is just a tool at the end of the day. And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. It's up to us to figure out how we want to use it and what kind of future we want to build with it.
This is giving me a lot to think about. It feels like we're just starting to see the potential of RG systems in finance. But before we get too carried away with all the possibilities, I'd love to see some real-world examples of how this technology is being used right now.
Well, in the final part of our deep dive, that's exactly what we're going to do. We'll look at some companies that are already using RG systems, the kinds of applications they're working on, and what we can learn from their experiences. Stick around.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential upsides and the, potential risks. But now I'm really curious to see how this is all playing out in the real world. Like,
Right.
what are companies actually doing with RG systems today?
Well, one area where we're seeing a lot of action is investment research. There are companies using RAG systems to analyze massive amounts of financial data, like company filings, market trends, news articles, you name it.
So it's like giving these analysts a super-powered research assistant.
Exactly. Instead of having humans spend hours digging through all that data, the AI can do a lot of the heavy lifting.
That sounds incredibly efficient. But what about for everyday investors like me? Are there any RGA-powered applications out there that could help us make smarter decisions?
Absolutely. Some platforms are using RGA systems to create these personalized investment dashboards. They can analyze your risk tolerance, financial goals, investment preferences, and then come up with customized recommendations. It's like having a robo-advisor, but with a lot more intelligence and personalization.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. No more generic investment advice, just insights tailored to my specific situation.
Exactly. And another area where RGA systems are really shining is in customer service.
Oh, yeah. I can see how that would be useful. I mean, I've definitely had my fair share of frustrating experiences with those, like, basic chatbots. They never seem to understand what I'm actually asking.
Right. Those traditional chatbots are often limited to pre-programmed responses, but RG systems can access way more information, like they can pull up your account details, transaction history, product, FAQs, you name it.
Ah, so they actually have the context to give you a more personalized and helpful response.
Precisely. And the best part is that RG systems can continuously learn from new data, so they actually get smarter and more helpful over time.
That's awesome. It sounds like RG systems could really revolutionize how we interact with, like, banks and other financial institutions.
I think so too. And we're really just scratching the surface here. As AI keeps advancing, we'll see even more innovative uses for RG systems in finance.
It's pretty exciting to think about all the possibilities. So what do you think the future holds for RG systems in finance? Are there any trends we should be keeping an eye on?
Definitely. One trend I'm seeing is the development of more specialized RRED systems. Right now, a lot of the focus is on building these general purpose systems. But I think we'll start to see systems that are fine-tuned for specific areas of finance, like wealth management risk assessment or fraud detection.
So instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, we'll have RGA systems that are experts in their own little niches.
Exactly. And another trend to watch out for is the integration of RA systems with other cutting-edge tech like blockchain and the metaverse.
Ooh, that sounds interesting. How would that work?
Well, just imagine a RAG system that can access and analyze data from a blockchain platform. It could give users incredible insights into that whole decentralized financial ecosystem. Or think about the metaverse. As those virtual worlds become more complex, we could have RGC system providing financial advice and services within those environments.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. It seems like RGA systems will be at the forefront of this whole convergence of finance and technology.
I think so too. But as these systems become more powerful and more widespread, we need to keep having those important conversations about responsible AI development.
Absolutely. We
So
can't get so caught up in the excitement that we forget about the ethical implications. We need to make sure that AI in finance benefits everyone, not just a select few.
I couldn't agree more. It's up to all of us to make sure this technology is used for good and that we build a future where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. It feels like we've only just scratched the surface of what's possible with REG systems in finance. I know I'll definitely be following this space closely, and I hope our listeners will too.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of RX systems. It's an exciting time to be following this technology, and I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.